and a challenge once again.
Mm.
All
I had
right.
the same problem, Tressy, so I get it.
Yeah, it's quite the, you got to get permission from your computer to do the telegram.
Mm.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. I know you had to get up at 4 a.m. in order to do this with your time zone. And so we sure appreciate you coming over to the Q&A. We have just one question before we open the chat, and that is from a lady who has terrible varicose veins. And so she wants to know if you could address that.
I would be happy to. Varicose veins is caused by what Dr. Hummer described as a ball and chain conflict. So basically, if you feel somebody or something, a job, a person is basically tying you down and holding you from achieving your life's purpose, then you will experience varicose veins. The only way to solve the problem is by cutting the ball and chain. How about that?
Okay, so when she did have that, I know her. I know she had that situation, probably over 20 years ago. So now it must be that there are triggers.
Correct.
Or maybe it was never cut.
Correct.
Or just the memory of it. Is that what it is? Or
can also be as well, right? I mean, if the number one, has she cut the chain is the first question.
She has.
If she has cut the chain, then we're back into the land of tracks and triggers and reminders, right? So there must be reminders in her life, in her house, in her environment, in her memories that basically are re-triggering the chain to get reconnected. So you have to unravel what it is that's reminding you of the chain. Basically, it takes work.
So if she is successful in finding all of that and addresses her subconscious, her varicose veins could disappear.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Well, is that awesome?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she can start out by if she knows what relationship was the ball and chain. The first step in the process is to say, "Oh, okay, I know I have varicose veins because I had a ball and chain with my ex-husband or children or whatever it is, that basic mother, parents, whatever that consisted of the ball and chain." When you consciously connect the cause of the problem to the symptoms of the problem, that will trigger a cathartic healing process. And that in itself, if depending on the tracks and reminders, so what will happen is if she goes through that conscious process of connecting the cause of the problem to the symptoms of the problem, that will trigger the first level of catharsis in the healing process and could fully heal the problem. If the problem comes back, then basically that means that you have tracks and reminders, and then you have to find them. So basically, you then have to go through and think back, okay, that was the ball and chain. It was to do with my children or my mother or here and there, and that happened over here, and therefore I have reminders of that experience in that environment, and then you have to go through and find those triggers and connect them to the original conflict and switch those tracks off, which is a learned skill, Tressy.
Yeah.
It takes time to learn that skill, but it tracks and the subconscious memory is a strange animal, right? And if you don't get your head around how the subconscious mind works and how it stores down reminders of trauma and bad experiences in life, then basically every problem in life can become chronic, an allergy, and therefore it can become a lifelong issue that you need to address, right? So this is a very important skill to learn.
And have you had clients who bought your book and learned to heal themselves, with everything that was going on with their lives?
I've had some tremendous feedback. In fact, the book is triggered the only time I've ever managed to convince somebody to get off of chemotherapy. Basically, I had somebody write to me from the US and say, Danny, I read your book and I've now just cancelled all my chemotherapy treatments, and I've been working with her ever since in order to help her to get back on her feet again. And this happens. It's one example. It happens time and time again. I've had people on Q&As sit there and say, Danny, you've just explained neuropathy of the feet, and I just did some work as you guided, and I've just witnessed a lump that's been on my foot for 30 years to disappear.
Awesome. Okay, Q&A, let's do this. Awesome, joyful. Okay, so let's get some...
Danny, turn his volume up a little bit. Okay, I will try. Yep. How do I do that? 1 second. Could I turn my volume up? I'm very bad at this, guys. How do I increase the input level on this?
Well, it just should be your keyboard. There should be your volume on your keyboard.
Yeah, that says it's up full, right?
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it sounds louder. It sounds louder.
Oh, is that? I can always shout a bit louder if you need me to.
No, you're good. You're good.
I have a good volume on my voice if you need it.
All right, go ahead, Rob. What do we have here?
Well, let me just say real quick, there was a lot of hands raised, but they all went away. So I've unmuted the one that was left, one for all. One for all, you're unmuted. Go ahead and talk to Tressy and Danny.
Hi, Tressy, and hi, Danny. Love you, Tressy. You know me. We've emailed a lot lately. But anyway, Danny, I am fascinated with what you're doing, and I have done a lot of studies with the type of work you do, and I absolutely believe 100% that emotion has the basis or the foundation of our illness and disease. Everything. So, yeah. My question would be, actually, I have a 2-part question, and I don't know if I'll have time for the second one, and that's okay because I don't want to take up all the time. But the first one would be, I know that so many people in America, and maybe worldwide, but I know America, do have weight issues. And I'm wondering, more, I guess I want more detail on how or what can help to reverse this issue for these people.
Okay, I can do that. And your second part?
Excuse me?
Your second question?
It's actually about parasites and where does that play a part in the healing aspect, because I know that it also is responsible for a lot of issues like cancers and so forth. I know tumors have been cut open and there's been yuck stuff in them. And so I don't know how that plays into what we're talking about here, or is it something completely separate, or is it something that can work together?
So let's just make one thing clear. Parasites have nothing to do with cancer. Cancer, according to the first biological law of Germanic healing knowledge, called the iron rule of cancer, and that is cancer can only be caused by emotional trauma.
Okay.
And there is no second cause for cancer. Not smoking, not COVID vaccines, not EMF signals, cell phone towers, etc., etc. Chemotherapy, radiation, none of those issues cause cancer. Cancer is a biological program that is there to ensure our survival and will increase and decrease our capacity in order to help us to overcome a life challenge. The parasite issue is one, like most things in medicine, that has an awful lot of misunderstanding around it. when we look at a brain CT scan, we see like this target ring, which is basically the emotional trauma on the relay of the brain. We see those same target rings on our skin. And then doctors say, oh, it's an insect bite or it's a parasite. It's not. It's just what Dr. Hummer described as it's the way nature functions in terms of a trauma ring that appears on the skin. And doctors think that it's parasites. So parasites is like all medical subjects, heavily misunderstood. Honestly, it's not a subject that I've gone deep down a rabbit hole because I focus my time and effort on understanding traumas related to how that affects our biology and how we fix them. If we get back to your first question, which is how do people address this water retention issue, which I personally believe is most likely responsible for an awful lot of weight gain and weight retention that people experience. And the first thing you have to do is identify which of those triggers is it that basically is triggering you to add water. So do you feel abandoned? Do you feel isolated? Do you feel like a homeless refugee? Or do you fear dying? And then, according to Dr. Hummer, the best solution to any problem is always a real life resolution to a conflict. So with my friend who added weight when she went to the US, she added weight because when she went there, she felt like a refugee, because this is not my home. India's my home, one of those. So basically, the resolution to the problem was, okay, when you go to America, think it's like home instead of feeling like a homeless refugee, and you won't retain water anymore. And as soon as she made that switch to making, so when she spent half of her year in America, because that's where her husband lives, that she looked at America as being home, second home, rather than this is not my home. Then she solved the problem, and she evacuated the water, and she didn't have that problem again. So there are always two ways to solve a problem. You can practically solve the problem. If you're a homeless refugee, you can go to wherever your home is, or you can change your mindset in a problem. So if I'm a refugee and I've been shifted and I have to live in America, or I've chosen to move to America, basically all I have to do is say, okay, America is my home. And that will resolve the conflict. So you can either practically solve a problem in life, or you can change your view of it.
I like that. Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. And I appreciate your information on the parasite issue, because that is something that I have heard and read a lot of in various medical and alternative publications. So that's good. Most
of it's a crock.
Well, awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. You know, I have
Lyme's disease, right? They say Lyme's disease. Oh, that's an insect bite, a parasite. I mean, it's a complete rubbish.
Well, I have no doubt, you know, because we're animals too. I have no doubt that we have a few, you know, friends that we would rather not have. And I don't think it's that difficult to get rid of them if we choose to, or we need to, whatever.
I mean, they put parasites inside the COVID vaccine, right? So
I know. Not to mention our food and everything else. It's just so nasty.
Yeah.
But
but the body, our survival function is extraordinary.
Yes.
And the body has the ability to deal with most of the abuse that we give it. Including parasites and issues like that, right? So our survival ability is quite extraordinary.
It is.
I don't worry too much about these things, frankly.
Yeah, that is so true. And I appreciate this. This is awesome. And I do absolutely, like I said, believe that emotion is absolutely the basis of everything. I do. So
I mean, apart from there are obviously scurvy and things like that, which are lack of vitamin C and a couple of other conditions. But outside of that, every change in our biology essentially is caused by an emotional conflict or an emotional trauma. Yeah, I mean things like chemo and that will make you sick, right? They kill cells. Radiation kills cells, but it doesn't cause cancer.
Thank you, one for all. Okay, I've unmuted RG. The initials RG. Unmute your mic and ask your question to Tressy and Danny. RG. Okay, there was a couple other hands raised, but they've disappeared. So, Jay, you got anything on the wall?
Let me see. Actually, I had a question. Because I'm trying to load this video and all that stuff. So, have you ever studied Dolores Cannon? With that she had believed in. She believed in life regression and how everything that is. She would talk to the subconscious mind through hypnosis, and then they would yell at the people that she was trying to heal, because like, they don't listen to me. I'm telling them that this problem is this, and I'm showing it to them, and they're not listening. This is how you fix it, and they would get mad. It was like, we're just going to give up on this guy, and it was so interesting. And what you're saying is exactly what I've watched for years. Exactly what she says, that the subconscious is connected. So yeah, definitely, that was one question.
Yeah, I mean, subconscious mind is extraordinary, and in my experience, you can often be in a situation where your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are 180 degrees apart. An example, during COVID, when I got locked out of India, I got terrible eczema from my knees down to my feet, and I couldn't for the life of me work out what the cause of it was, but basically the eczema comes when you resolve a separation conflict. My subconscious mind had decided that normally if I'm out of India for more than 2 weeks, I get homesick and I need to go back again. By this point in time, I'd been stuck in Europe, in Brussels, where my wife was living at the time, for a 2-month period. And my subconscious mind had decided, oh, okay, Danny, you're great. You're living out of India. You're fine. We can resolve the fact you don't want to be separated from India. You're out of India and you're fine. Now, that's what my subconscious mind was saying, which is why I then got eczema on my calf muscles and on my feet and everything else. And in my conscious mind, I mean, I was desperate to go back back home to Bombay, right? I mean, and my subconscious mind decided, oh, you're great, you're out of India, no problem, right? So your subconscious mind thinks one thing, and your conscious mind is like poles apart from what your subconscious mind thinks. So it's very difficult to get your head around how your subconscious mind functions. The only way you can read what's happening in your subconscious mind is by looking at the symptoms in your body. Your body will basically is the language of your subconscious mind. And you just need to look at your body, and your body will tell you exactly what your subconscious mind is thinking. And then you can start using your conscious mind to manipulate your subconscious mind in order to solve those problems. So it is a tricky animal, the subconscious mind, but once you get your head around how it works and how you can use your conscious mind to manipulate it, then, you know, it's a game that you can then play and it starts to make some sense. It's a tough one.
Wow.
Okay. It's a tough one to learn.
Wow. That's, yeah. I do have a question on the wall. How exactly do you resolve fear, abandonment, fight, flight, distrust, etc., so that you can heal the resulting illness it causes?
So all of these emotional issues will be related or tied into a specific emotional trauma that you have experienced, and then the tracks and reminders of that trauma that your subconscious mind has stored. So as I mentioned in my case study earlier, if I was walking down a street with no street lights and got bashed over the head and my money was stolen, my subconscious mind would take a snapshot of everything that happened in that split second. And then if I do not remember that my attacker jumped out from behind a white pickup truck, I now all of a sudden have an irrational fear and get put into fight or flight anxiety every time I see a white pickup truck. And then I'm like, what the hell? Why am I scared of a white pickup truck? And then you have to piece it together exactly what happened in order to be able to remove or release that conflict from your subconscious mind, and identify whatever your subconscious mind has stored as a reminder of that event that will trigger it to start again. Now, that might sound quite complex, but it's actually not as complex as you think. I mentioned in my talk that my Bible in the area of subconscious mind is a book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Now, basically, he has a very, very simple technique where in the last 5 minutes before you go to sleep, when your conscious mind is starting to come down, basically you have the ability to make demands on your subconscious mind that it will be compelled to deliver to you. So if in the last 5 minutes before you sleep, if you have, I have an emotional trauma that's buried in my subconscious mind that triggers some, varicose veins or lung cancer or breast cancer or whatever it is that I cannot recall, then basically I can instruct my subconscious mind in that 5 minutes before you sleep, where you can speak to your subconscious mind and you can ask it or you can demand it to reveal information to you. And basically, it might not happen the first day, but on the second, third, fourth, fifth day after 1 week, you demand the information you want your subconscious mind to release and reveal to you. And basically, it will allow the information to surface. It's fascinating. Subconscious mind is probably my most fascinating subject of study. I mean, understanding how the subconscious mind works and how you can manipulate it and how you can switch off pain and how you can switch off cancer and how you can force buried trauma to be released, and how that triggers a cathartic healing. That whole subject is absolutely fascinating for a nerd like me.
You're definitely not a nerd. Okay. There's another question. So this one goes into so it kind of goes well, I mean, addiction. So addiction. My son is addicted, has an addiction problem, and what triggers does addiction? What is it, like a trauma that they're trying to cover up? That's the question they're asking.
Yeah, I mean, addiction is can be a complex issues of self-worth conflicts or of traumas or of reminders or trying to escape, depending on what the addiction is, right? I mean, it can it can be an addiction to playing video games, right? Or it can be an addiction to drugs, or it can be an addiction to alcohol. I mean, it is possible to use Dr. Hummer's medical discoveries and the power of the subconscious mind in order to resolve these issues. The thing you have to keep in mind is that it is only possible for us to heal ourselves. So a good meaning father is absolutely nothing that a father can do in order to help a child with addiction. The child has to want to be able to solve that problem themselves. Otherwise, there's absolutely nothing you can do. You're wasting your time, I'm afraid. I've had addictions.
All right, thank you.
I've kicked those addictions, but I had to do it. Nobody else can do it for me, right?
Roger that. All right, back to you, Rob.
Okay, I've unmuted KB. KB, you're unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question there.
Hi, Tressy. Hi, Danny. Thank you
Hi,
so much
KB.
for having this. I have a question for a friend who had a hernia mesh surgery, and it went bad where now all of the mesh is intertwined with all of their nerves, so there's a lot of pain. Is that something that would be caused by a trauma, or is that a totally different animal?
The original hernia would have been caused by the emotional trauma. I mean, a hernia is caused by a trauma of being under pressure and feeling like you can't cope. So it's like having the weld on your shoulders basically causes the hernia. When people come to me with hernias, I generally, or I would almost in every situation, suggest for them to have the surgery of the mesh inserted inside, because the problem is each time the hernia pops, basically it resets the healing process, and it's very difficult to stop that hernia from popping. You only have two choices. You either put a mesh on the inside to stop it popping out, or you wear a corset, or you wear a thick belt or something to stop the hernia from popping. The mesh generally works better. But if you have a surgeon who has made a mess of the surgery and has intertwined the mesh with the wall, the nerves of the wall of the stomach, the first thing you should do is change your surgeon, and secondly, probably go back and have that mesh taken out and get another surgeon to do the surgery fresh.
Yeah, none of the surgeons will touch this friend now, because it could actually result in death because it's so intertwined into the nerves and stuff. So I just didn't know if this was something that could be helped at this point through these methods you're discussing, or if, it's just...
Well, it's a physical surgery, KB, right? So the problem is that it's not. I mean, the original problem would have been caused by emotional trauma, the hernia. But the problem that they're facing now basically is intervention based, right? So it's a medical surgery. Because of the litigious nature of America, you're unlikely to find a solution in America. However, if you came to India, you would basically be able to get surgeons lining up, because there's very little accountability as such in terms of it's very difficult to sue doctors in India, right? So if they wanted to try to get the mesh taken out and to go for another solution, I mean, India would be the place to do it.
Okay. And then if I can ask one other question, maybe other people want to know if there's any suggestions on how you can figure out what your trauma is, because sometimes I think it's hard for us to even know what's doing it.
Yep. So if you come to my website, there's this book called The Psychic Roots of Disease. It's the best book in English of Dr. Hummer's medical discoveries. This is the hard copy of the book. This is actually now out of date. There are 6 versions ahead of this where this has not been updated. Long story. But if you come to my website and you sign up, you can download a free copy of this book. And basically, if you this has the cause and the solution to almost every disease on earth. So if you come to my website and sign up, you can download this book for free. You can either look at the organ. You say, right, okay, I've got intestinal gas. Okay, what is intestinal gas? You can go to the book, look at the contents page, go to intestines, and then read up on the intestines, and that will tell you the type of conflict and give you case studies that say, okay, my stomach's affected by territorial anger. What have I been angry about recently? What problem have I resolved? And then it will you can work your way back to the life conflict, and it will basically teach you to start understanding and connecting the dots between the problems that you experience in life and how it affects your biology. And that you can do for any and every conflict basically known to mankind that's in that book.
Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate you both.
My pleasure.
Hey, Danny, can you say your website?
My website is my name. So you can see here, it's the Irish spelling. So it is Danny-Carroll.com. Danny-Carroll.com. On that website, you can when you sign up, you can download a free copy of that ebook. I've also put a 1-year course of daily 6 to 7 minute MP3 classes on these medical discoveries. So for 1 year, you'll basically get an email every day where you spend 6 or 7 minutes, you learn a little bit more about these medical discoveries. And it's a great way to learn slowly and over time. Do you want me to pick up the Patriots question on neuropathy? I can see that question in front of me.
Sure, go ahead.
Should I go ahead? Yep. Right. Okay, Patriot. Question: neuropathy, weak legs, getting weaker this past year. Okay, that just disappeared. Said after third stroke in 2015, feet were 70% dead. I take no drugs. Okay, neuropathy. Now, neuropathy basically in the feet or the legs basically is caused by not wanting to or not being able to walk to or away from something. Okay, so my mother-in-law has neuropathy in her feet because of her inability to walk away from a toxic husband, for example. So the legs, again, will be walking related. But basically, it is your inability to be able to walk to or to walk away from something is one potential cause of that conflict. Okay. The other potential cause of that conflict can be a motor conflict. And this is basically if you have gotten through a trauma or an experience where you felt like you were trapped and you could not escape from a certain situation, then basically that will affect the strength of the legs, and then you will experience restriction in movement in either one or both legs, and you have to go back and identify the original emotional trauma, the motor conflict, the situation where you felt like you were frozen and you were trapped and you were unable to escape from a situation. So it can be either of those two.
Great. Okay, Nancy Stone, I've unmuted you. Nancy, go ahead. Your mic and ask your question.
Can we get a response from the person that asked the question, the Patriot? Does that hit home for you?
Oh, that was a question on the wall, Tressy.
Oh, on the wall. Okay.
Yeah.
Weren't live. Yeah.
Okay.
I just saw it go by, Tressy, so it's a question that many people ask, so I just thought I'd pick it up.
Nice.
This Nancy. Is the one that I said that I had a lady on another Q&A where I explained the neuropathy that she basically was unable to walk away from her husband, and when she connected the conflict with the problem in her feet, basically she had this lump that just disappeared, right, on the call. Crazy.
Awesome. I'm so glad you did answer that, because we had that question before when we were doing emotional roots. So that was great.
Yeah, the best way to, in many of these situations, the only way to actually to find out specifically what caused the problem is to get a brain CT scan done. A brain CT scan has your entire medical history printed on it. And when you're taught to read a brain CT scan without contrast, basically you can tell somebody's entire medical history from the brain CT scan. If it's a motor conflict, then you will find the problem in the motor cortex, and you can navigate your way around the CT to find out exactly what's caused the problem, whether it's a separation conflict that's affecting the feet, or whether it's a motor conflict that's affecting the legs. That you can tell from the brain CT.
So, are you actively reading those at this time, currently?
Yeah, I've been learning for the last 9 years, Tressy.
Yeah, so
I do read brain
how
CT scans.
How do people get that without a doctor's order?
Okay, well, in India, what you do is you walk into your local diagnostic store and you pay $30, and you walk out in less than an hour with your brain CT in hand. Okay. Yes, $30 and in less than an hour with no prescription.
Can I send you $30? Can I send you $30 and then take a picture?
You can't send me your head, Jay, unfortunately. But in America, it is more difficult. I have some people who have managed to work their way through the system, but in the West, it is outrageous. You need 12 doctors' prescriptions, and you need to sell a kidney and all of that to get a brain CT done in America, right? Very often, I've had many people who said, "I forget all of that. I'm just going to fly to India and have a holiday in Goa for a week and get my brain CT scan done." And the whole thing still costs less, and you get it done a lot quicker.
Right. But I think if you have a naturopathic doctor who understands things and who, you just tell them you want it, I think they would do it. Like I have a chiropractor who is more of a naturopath than anything. And I believe that if I asked him, he would order it, and then I would be able to get it done. So I don't think it's hopeless in the U.S. You just have to find it.
It's not impossible. It's just bloody
hard,
difficult.
Yeah. Well, you're going to pay a lot too.
And you're gonna pay for your ass for it as well, right? I mean, you're gonna be depositing a kidney on exit, right, with your brain scan in hand.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, it's crazy. And literally, I mean, it can cost in India. It costs because doctors can't read brain CT scans, right? So CT scanners very rarely ever get used. So even if I want to get an MRI done in India, it will cost me $250 to $300, right? Because doctors think they can read those, right? But they can't read brain CT scans. So they can't read CT scans almost, period, right? So they never order CT scans. So the CT scanner just sits there idle. So anybody who walks in to use it, I mean, they're given a red carpet welcome when they come in. You spend your $25 or $30 on your brain scan, and you're treated like royalty. And particularly if you go in, the prescription system in India basically is designed so that the diagnostic labs can return 50% of the money that they take from patients and clients. They return that money to the medical doctors in cash, right, in a brown envelope. So if you walk into a diagnostic lab without a prescription, it basically means that the diagnostic lab is going to keep 100% of the loot, right? Which means that they're going to go to the bank with $30 instead of $15, right? So if you walk into a diagnostic lab in India without a prescription, I mean, you are literally treated like royalty. Can you imagine? Yeah, so you can get your brain CT scan, no prescription, done in and out in an hour.
I'm more upset that Jay can afford $30. I haven't got my first paycheck from Tressy yet.
Damn.
What?
Well, at least when I go there, I'm gonna have some place to stay. I'm gonna stay at Danny's house, so I got a free place to stay.
You come and stay at my place. No issues. It's It's a one bed, Rob. So you'll have to crash with me and put up with me snoring, right? But if you're okay with that, you're most welcome.
I got an army cot. I can sleep on that.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Nancy Stone, you're unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question, Nancy.
Okay, my question is: so many people in the U.S. now suffer from diabetes. It's just so common, and those of us who have it and take medication and try to do diet, and actually, for me, I'm a pretty happy person, so I'm a little bit baffled by this.
Okay. So I'll explain to you, well, this wonderful disease called diabetes is not even a disease, right? Like all of these things. So what is diabetes? Diabetes basically is an elevation of the blood sugar. And what doctors will argue is that your pancreas is broken and therefore it's not producing enough insulin in order to carry the blood into your muscles. Now, like all things with conventional medicine, that's a complete and utter crock. Elevated sugar in your blood is the equivalent to dry powder. Okay? When you are about to get into a fight or an argument, basically what nature does is it deposits more sugar in your bloodstream, so that when you actually get into the fight, that basically you have the dry powder available to discharge into your muscle, so you have enough strength to win the fight. Okay? Nature in our lifetime will never make a single mistake. Okay? And a high sugar in your blood basically is just an indication. And this can, in today's life, this can be triggered by these like automatic negative thoughts that run through your mind, right? And you all of a sudden you're sitting there saying, oh, I hate the American government because they forced a COVID mandate and they're a bunch of bastards and whatever. And then all of a sudden the wheels start spinning, right? You start getting into those mental arguments. Okay, and those mental arguments basically then trigger the biological program of, okay, get fight ready. Okay, and then the sugar is deposited into the blood and the insulin is made at the ready, so that when you get into the fight, it's like a tug of war, right? When you're in a tug of war, basically, when you take the tension on the rope, basically, your body will deposit a ton of sugar into your blood, so that when you take the strain and you start pulling on the rope, that you got that strength and energy that you need in order to win the tug of war, right? So basically, if you don't want high blood sugar, then basically stop arguing, switch off and stop engaging with the negative thoughts that you get in your mind, and understand, I mean, doctors do business, right? Medicine is a business, right? So according to medicine, you got this is low and this is high and this is average, okay? There's no such thing. The whole system of having high blood sugar in itself is a complete and utter crock, okay? In your lifetime, nature will never make a mistake, not at one point in the daytime, right? So if your blood sugar is high, then basically your subconscious mind has decided that based on the circumstances of the situation that you're in, that you need more sugar to be ready, to be deployed in order to give you the energy you need in order to win a fight. And if you don't want high blood sugar, stop fighting, stop arguing, and stop the unwanted negative thoughts, stop engaging with them, and you will find that your blood sugar goes back down to normal. Voila.
May I just say something about what you
Absolutely.
just told us? What I'm thinking is, because of this being my situation for a few years, I am believing it started to take place when I was following videos and podcasts and all these things that had that prep
the world's
our
coming to an
thing.
end, and
Yes. And we've all been suffering from this, trying to be prepared, trying to use discernment, trying to understand. And now I see that was
trying to trust the plan.
Thank you. Yes, that too.
Trying to enjoy the show and trust the plan, right?
And get your popcorn. Right?
Get your popcorn ready. Come on. Showtime. The storm is here.
Where we go one, we go all.
Oh my
There we
gosh.
go one, we go all, baby.
Amen to all of that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's exactly the problem, right? I mean, you're deep state bastards, a bunch of pedophiles and, child eating, all that sort of stuff, right? I mean, you sit, my blood sugar is always through the roof. Whenever I have a blood test, my resting blood sugar is like 160. Why? Because I'm always bloody fighting, right? I'm always going to go and change the world. Those bastards are killing people and yada, 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 yada. And that's what basically pushes your blood sugar up. So you have two choices. You either switch that noise off. But you understand that my blood sugar is always through the roof, right? But do I ever worry about it? Do I ever take insulin for it? Have I ever been sick before it? No, because I understand what it is about my life that triggers my blood sugar. And I understand that in my lifetime, nature will never make a mistake, right? So do I then run off and get insulin and jabs and all of this? No, of course I don't, yeah. I just let it be.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. Okay. Amazing Grace, you're unmuted. Amazing Grace.
Hello. I'm really enjoying this, as I feel like emotional health just affects everything. But
Correct.
what I'm really concerned about is over the past 4 years of being awake, we've heard that parasite rumor over and over. And what if you have been doing the detox with the fenbenzolol, the ivermectin, the selenium? Is that really dangerous for people to be doing, as that has just been so prevalent and out there?
I don't know, honestly, Grace. I don't take any medication, right? And I don't take COVID jabs that have self-assembling graphene structures and parasites, etc. In those vaccines. And my area of study and expertise essentially is not medicine, because it's just a form of symptomatic treatment. My area of specialization is in understanding the cause of health challenges and how to fix them. So I haven't really, gone down the hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, whatever, and all of the squillion drugs that you're just replacing one symptomatic treatment for another symptomatic treatment. So I essentially just discharge my time and effort from looking at any of those opportunities, because it's all in the same paradigm, right? So a magic pill, ivermectin, whatever. So I don't look at it, to be honest, Gracie. I'm sorry.
So do you also take that approach with supplements too?
Yes, absolutely. Do you know how many supplements I take? None. Not entirely true. I use a negatively energy charged volcanic rock to clean my drinking water and to make my drinking water negatively energy charged. But I've tested every diet in the world. I did vegan for 5 years. I've done Atkins, South Beach, and all of the things, right? And basically, I now follow the blood group diet. If you eat according to your blood group, it gives your body all of the nutrition that it needs, and then supplements are just an expensive way to shit for the most part. I don't mean to be pissing on anybody's bonfire here, right? But I mean, I'm just telling you,
we're ready.
I'm a straight shooter, right? I just tell it the way it is, and I don't have a great filter. Say, oh, but I support nutritional healing and supplementation and whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever, do your best. But, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. No sorries. No.
That was funny. Thank you, Amazing Grace. Okay, my friend Lucy. Lucy, you're unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, my friend Rob and Tressy and Danny.
Hi, Lucy.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Okay, so this is going to sound crazy.
Oh, go for
it. I'm 62, and at age 35, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
And so I met a lady that's a naturopath here on Telegram. She took my DNA and ran a scan on it with the frequencies and everything, and was able to tell me what was going on. She said, you don't have rheumatoid arthritis. She said, you've got a little bit on your right shoulder and your right hip. And so, anyway, the symptom that I deal with the most is inflammation. Can you tell me about that?
So, I mean, inflammation is just the healing process of a conflict, right? So if I cut my finger, the first thing I'm going to experience is inflammation, right? Because every cell in our body can only heal in a fluid environment, including our brain, including our finger. So if I cut my finger, I will get inflammation. Okay, inflammation is basically a critical part in the healing process in order for your body to heal. If you have long-term problems with inflammation in your hip or in your shoulder, depending on, regardless, of whatever name they give it, basically it means that you have some form of self-worth conflict that's being triggered. We're back to the tracks and the triggers and the reminders again, that if we keep getting reminded of old conflicts, and it keeps it running like a train on a track, right? So if I understood, did you say that you are 62 or you are 6'2"? I didn't hear the...
I'm 62.
You're not 6'2", right? You might be.
I'm 5'2".
So again, there's work to do. The hip gets affected by basically the inability to endure a situation in life, and whether there's some work to do to discover your laterality, to see which way your brain is wired, to see whether it's the hip that is affected by your relationships with your mother and your children, or whether it's the hip that gets affected by everybody else. But the hip gets affected by the inability to endure a specific situation. And the shoulder is basically it's a caring conflict. So again, in COVID, my shoulder I got cancer in my shoulder bone, which was a care conflict essentially for my wife, because she was being forced to take the COVID vaccines. So I had a conflict. I could not care for my wife because when I told her the horrors of the COVID vaccine, she said, "You tin foil hat mad," whatever, so I couldn't protect her from herself. So basically, yeah, but there's work required, Lucy, right? Especially if it's a conflict that has been running for 27 years, then you have to go back to where the problem started and what problem you could not endure 27 years ago, and the care conflict that you had depending on when that shoulder pain started, and over a lifetime, it becomes quite complex, right? Because you have one conflict and your subconscious mind stores down a set of tracks and triggers. But the problem is that each time the conflict relapses, your subconscious mind stores down another set of tracks and reminders. So you can end up with a very, very complex mess of tracks and triggers that are making that problem chronic. And it takes a significant amount of work to resolve such long-term issues that you've experienced long back. But you can do it. It's possible. It just takes work.
Okay. Let me do a follow-up on that. You said self-worth. What do you mean? Can you explain a little further on that, please?
I'm a bad. Fill in the gaps.
A bad something.
You're a bad something. I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad daughter. I'm a bad employee. I'm a bad sister. I'm a bad. Just fill it in. And depending on the greater the intensity of the conflict, depends whether it will therefore affect your muscles, or it will affect your cartilage, or it will affect your bone. In my case, I was a very bad husband during COVID because I could not stop my wife from taking the COVID vaccines, and essentially potentially putting both her life and my life at risk. So I got cancer in my bone, which was because I was a bad partner, and I was trying to push my wife out of my life by threatening to divorce her if she took any more COVID vaccines. As you do, right?
So let me, so I can understand. I do understand, but you're saying go back to that area where it started and do the work of the trauma or whatever was going on. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
If it's one side of your body, then basically it's relationship based. So the first thing you need to do is work out which way your brain is wired. The easiest way to do that is check the crown of your hair, the back of your head, and your hair will flow either clockwise or anti-clockwise at the crown of your head. If it's clockwise, basically it means that you are right brain wired. And if it's anti-clockwise, it means you're left brain wired. If you are right brain wired, so our body gets affected by different relationships. So in like paired organs, arms, legs, testicles, breasts, etc., get affected by different relationships. So if you are right brain wired, the left side of your body will get affected by relationships with your mother and your children, and the right side of your body gets affected by everybody else. So you can start to hone in on the nature of the relationship. If only one side of your body has been affected, you can start to hone in on the nature of the relationship that caused that problem just by seeing which side of your body is affected. And then once you start going down the layer into the different levels, if it's a shoulder affected, it's a caring conflict. If it's a hip reflected, then it's an endurance conflict. And then you start going down until you can start narrowing down as to, okay, what was happening in my life 27 years ago? Who did I have a self-worth conflict with that I cared about, that I couldn't endure? And then you start building the picture, and then start building the picture of what was happening in your life at that point. But you have to go back to that point to start off with, to rebuild it. That is your trauma that has triggered this chain of events that has now been with you for the last 27 years.
Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all.
My pleasure.
And is that in that book that you're talking about, where you're from all your research, so that say a lame person would just go to that book talking about to see the conflicts and to see what thing causes? Is that where you're getting all your research from?
Yeah, you get it from everything. Everything. I mean, this is everything is in Dr. Hummer's book. So we have Dr. Hummer's scientific chart of Germanic New Medicine. I mean, you have to have you have to either be a doctor or you have to be a very, very keen learner and have a decent amount of nous to be able to absorb this one. This one is much, much easier. It's written, this author is not a medical doctor, and has written this in lay language. So you can download the latest version of this book from my website, and you can put keywords in there. You can go to the specific organ and find out what type of conflicts cause problems for my adrenal cortex or whatever you're interested in looking at. Or you can just put symptoms in, and you can just put symptoms as a keyword search term in, and just go through and just read all of the replies around it, and just learn, inflammation or whatever it is you want to learn about. And it has the answer to every health challenge that we are aware of in that book. Right? It's amazing.
Amazing. All right.
Learning things like tracks and triggers are covered. Bjorn covers it in his book. I cover it in my book, Terminal Cancer as a Misdiagnosis. Tracks and triggers is something that everybody has to learn, because the way the subconscious mind works, right? When we have that moment, oh my God, I don't believe that just happened, then that triggers the subconscious mind to store down all of those reminders of that situation. And if you don't understand how the subconscious mind works, then you have allergies, or you have chronic health conditions that can then last you for a lifetime. One of my favorites with tracks and triggers is if you live in the countryside in the UK, you will find that there is a large problem of hay fever. Okay. Now, hay fever is a very funny story. Basically, young kids in the UK very often have their first sexual experience in a haystack or in a field full of hay if they're living in the countryside. And if that sexual experience goes wrong, which it very often does because it's your first sexual experience, it triggers basically what's called a stinking conflict. Now, a stinking conflict is basically makes your nose run, triggers your sinuses. So each year when farmers start cutting fields, if you've had a bad sexual experience in a haystack, and you think, oh my God, that sucks, oh, I just messed it up and whatever, and all of those other things, then the hay basically all of the smell
pollen.
of the hay, the pollen in the air, basically is the subconscious mind stores that as a reminder of a stinking conflict of screwing up your first sexual experience in a haystack. And then what happens is, for the rest of your life, each time the farmers cut the fields and the pollen then starts floating around, then you get sinus infections and all of that, because it's your subconscious mind reminding you of the stinking conflict you had in the haystack. So just an example of how the subconscious mind works and how it triggers allergies and chronic disease and stuff like that. And then when you understand how it works, then you can just switch all of this stuff off. It's amazing.
Great. Okay. I'm going to take one more off the wall, Jay, and then we'll go to you. Stevie, I've unmuted you. Stevie, go ahead.
Thank you, Rob. Hi, Tressy and Danny. This is very, very interesting because I have all the above what you've been talking about. Thank you. Oh, my God. Okay. But, I came in. Unfortunately, I was busy. I came in right when you were talking about the brain scans. Okay. Yeah, I have two questions. One's real quick. I had a brain scan. Let's see. It was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I hit my head with some bricks. Maybe that's what's wrong. I don't know. But anyway, they had a brain scan. Can you, yeah. Can you read one from a long time ago if I got a hold of it? And what were you saying it did? You can find out what. And then the other thing was basically we were talking about diabetes. I have diabetes, and boy, You just laid it out for me. I know exactly why I have it. Thank you very much. And because I take it. Go ahead.
There's no such thing as diabetes, darling. It's all just a dog and pony show. Anyway, whatever.
It's diabetes too. I take what they call insulin, whatever. It doesn't help. It does not help. But you are correct on that. The stress really makes it worse. So thank you for everything. But yeah, I'd like to know about the brain scan a little bit more. If you can just.
So yeah, I mean, what can you see on a brain scan? You can see your entire life history. I'll give you a quick. When I first started studying this modality, I had my brain scan done because you had the opportunity to learn to start reading brain scans. I took my brain scan when I did my practitioner's course in this study, and my teacher said, "Oh, Danny, I see you've had lung cancer in your left lung." I said, "Yes, I have. My lung collapsed in 2000." She said, "And I see that do you have a testicular cancer program running, and your left testicle is smaller than your right testicle, right?" So you can imagine I'm in a group of 25 perfect strangers who I've never met before, having a discussion with my teacher on the relative size of my testicles, right? Which I didn't really sign up for originally, but basically you can see your entire life history of everything that's ever happened to you in your life on your brain scan. But it has to be a brain CT scan and not an MRI. The brain CT scan basically looks at the bone and the skin content in the brain, and an MRI looks at the fluid content. Doctors, frankly, medical doctors, including neurologists, frankly, cannot read either of them. They order MRIs more often than CTs because there's a little bit more you can see in terms of the fluid. But basically, they can't read either MRIs or brain CT scans. So, yeah, but if you have a brain CT scan, provided it's a CT scan without contrast and not a CT scan with contrast that makes your brain shine up like a Christmas tree, or an MRI scan. But if you have that CT scan from back in the day, then what it will do is it will capture your entire life up until the point that you had that brain scan done. So it's a great data point. So provided it's a CT scan without contrast, share it with me and I'll be happy to tell you a bit about your life from it.
Thank you very much. That's going to be interesting. And it was without contrast. This is a great.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Thank you.
Send it to me. We'll have some fun. Yeah, come on.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stevie. I just noticed on the wall, Lonnie has a question. You want to let Lonnie go real quick, or?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, my question is, I have trouble with cellulitis. How do I get rid of it? It never totally gets better. It always, and then it gets worse again. And it's very painful.
Tell me again, Lonnie, what is it you have?
Cellulitis.
1 second.
Oh. Cellulitis.
They have so many names for different conditions. Tell me your symptoms, Lonnie, if you can.
Swelling in the ankles, feet, and then the swelling gets so bad where I get blisters and they start seeping fluid.
Right. Okay. So I don't know whether you heard the discussion earlier about the water retention. Basically, this is not cellulite. It is water retention that is triggered by the survival function of the kidneys. Okay. When we have this survival function in our kidneys, that when we get into certain situations in life, it triggers us to retain a lot of water, and that water is stored in your external limbs in order to protect your vital organs. So the first place that this water retention is stored basically is in your feet and in your legs, and basically that is triggered by you either feeling isolated, feeling abandoned, feeling like a refugee, or generally feeling like a fish out of water. These are the emotional issues that basically trigger that problem to start. And again, if it has been running for a long period of time, then we're back into the land of tracks and triggers and reminders again. And you will know every time every time that the survival function of the kidneys gets switched on, you will get a very dry mouth. Basically, your mouth will go dry as a desert. And what nature is trying to do is to make you thirsty, so you drink more water. It will stop you urinating or significantly reduce your urination and your perspiration in order to make sure that you retain water, and that water will go boom, straight down into your legs. But it's triggered by feeling either abandoned, isolated, like a homeless refugee, or by fear of death. You have to fix those problems in order to solve this.
Thank you very much.
A pleasure.
All right. Is it Jay's turn? The Jay Show? Hey, Danny, there's a lot of questions on here talking about where can I get the list of books and authors. Do you have that on your website, or do you want to send me the links and I can put them somewhere?
So I've spent 20 years trying to find my way around this body of knowledge, and it's been obviously like running through a dark maze. What I've done is I've put a resource page on my website that basically will allow you to navigate your way around this community. So I've sort of put 20 years of links and resources all in one place so that you can navigate your way around without having to spend 20 years finding it. You will find also on my resource page, there is a 1-hour video of Dr. Hummer with his patients, so you can see how he used to be and what an extraordinary man he was just by watching that video on my resource page. So that's the easiest way to guide around the community. I have a bookshop on my website, or you can go to Amazon to find all of the books. This book won the 2023 Global Book Awards in the category Medical Books. It's called Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis. This is an introduction to these medical discoveries. I targeted the book from a marketing perspective at terminal cancer patients because, in my experience, they're the only people who have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, in order to be able to start learning about these medical discoveries. I mean, if you say to somebody, I have a cold and flu. Oh, that's caused by COVID, right? No, it's not caused by COVID. These are biological functions. Colds, you can't catch a cold. You can't catch a virus. A virus has never been isolated in a human blood sample ever. It's just part of the many hypotheses used to explain things that doctors don't understand. Now, that's a bold statement. Take it or leave it. I don't really give a shit. And you can go down your own rabbit hole and you can do your own research and come to your own conclusions, right?
We already agree, but we already agree, so we're red-pilled.
Yeah. My greatest blessing, Tressy, is I don't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks about what I say, right? So, however, let me make one suggestion. I'm a very skeptical person, and I've spent now 12 years both studying and testing these medical discoveries. You can never have conviction in anything until you have personal experience. And in my case, because of my levels of skepticism, I could not have conviction even in these medical discoveries until I spent years and years and years and years testing it. Okay, then my conviction went from 0 to 2%, from 2% to 4%, and slowly over time, as I acquired more experience, I came to the conclusion that these medical discoveries basically are the holy grail of health and wellness. And what Dr. Hummer discovered really was the philosopher's stone of healing and medicine, which is why he's such a dangerous man to the medical system. He had a 92% success rate in healing terminally ill cancer patients that was audited by a court in Germany when they subpoenaed 6,500 of his terminally ill cancer patient medical files and called every single one of them up to find out what their state of health was, and 92% were not only alive but were in full health even after medical doctors sending them home to die. So his proven success rate is extraordinary. My personal experience matches Dr. Hummer's success and his track record and his medical discoveries, and therefore now I have the personal experience because I've had the lung cancer and the jaw cancer and the testicular cancer and the bone cancer, and I now have skin cancer on my back, whatever, because people keep stabbing me in the back, right? Anyway, comes with the territory. But wait until treat this subject with skepticism. Come in and say, that sounds like a load of bullshit, right? That's a crock of shit. Okay, great. That's a great starting point. Come in, be skeptical, and come in, read, learn, understand, test. Read, learn, understand, test, and keep testing it until you understand that these medical discoveries are truly mind-blowing and triggering cathartic healing. It's just, I cannot explain it to you, but when you can go from being in crippling pain to being pain-free, bang, just by giving certain instructions to your subconscious mind, it is properly mind-blowing, mad, and I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome answer.
All right. I think it's time to close. And I would, I would like to invite you back in the near future. And
anytime, Tressy.
Awesome. Well, we celebrate you and your work and your sacrifice. And we share your beliefs about the emotions, and thank God that the FDA is going to be obliterated along with the AMA, and right?
100%.
Very soon now, we're gonna be able to do whatever we want.
Yeah, those guys are really shitting their own nest, right, with this COVID dog and pony show, right? I mean,
oh yeah, they're not long for this world.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We bless you, and we will we'll get the replay up. And if you would like to have the replay, we can send that to you.
If you could, I'd love that, Tressy. If you could do that, I share it around.
Jay's on it.
I sent the Rumble one to your email already, and then we just got to work on sending this.
Okay. So. Awesome.
Amazing.
All right, Ina.
God bless you all.
All right, bless you.
All right.
Okay.
Bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Speak to you soon. Bye now.
Good night.